Hey, we are recording. All right, we can go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I've got the first point, uh, which is just to announce that we have a new front-end engineer starting on August 12th. Woo! So that's exciting. We'll be up to the hiring plan with the addition of that engineer on the front end. Uh, but I think we actually have one more spot open. So we'll continue. I'll be continually interviewing, and hopefully we'll get one added. And then the next opening isn't until November. So yeah, that's all I have on that. Looks like Gabe just removed his point, so we'll move to
Sorry, I
John.
just removed Gabe's point because I was trying to move it to below John's, but I was failing at that. But yeah, I figure it makes sense for John's to go next because it's
Yeah, that's fine. So click on the link and you'll see why I wanted to share a little bit of congratulations with y'all if the link went back, but now the link's gone. Uh, the results are in Gartner's peer review process, which required us to have close to, I think, 50 different large enterprises do reviews of us. And we earned the Customer Choice Award, and puts us in the likes of Jira and Microsoft with Azure DevOps / TFS. Amazing results. We have the best rating on top of that of all of those, a 4.6 compared to everyone else. I cherry picked a couple of the reviews that were there just to give you a highlight of what people were saying. So everyone on this team has been working incredibly hard to build and evolve issue management into project planning and agile planning. And you know what? We're on the map. This is awesome. So congratulations. We're visionaries in Gartner's review, which puts us in an awesome place as well. So I'm excited to see I'm excited with where we've gone and how far we've come. And I'm incredibly excited about where we're going to go next. So with that, I'm going to let Gabe go. Thank you.
what was the biggest gap that came out of that, John? Like, where's our biggest opportunity? I guess is the best way of putting that.
Let's it's interesting. I haven't done a gap analysis. Victor was gone and Gabe's here, and I think one of the things we need to do with Gabe is take a look at this and see what does this tell us where we should go. I just sent Gabe a link to the critical capabilities document that Gartner uses. I'm looking for it. I'll put the link in here as well. That Gartner uses to define when they do the Magic Quadrant. Where did Zoom go? I hate too many monitors. There's Zoom. So this is the document that Gartner publishes before they do a review, and it actually has the details in it. And I'll put it in the doc. And you can take a look at this document. It's not public, it's internal only. But that document is what they write. They write that and they do that study before they do the Magic Quadrant. And then when they do the Magic Quadrant, they're looking not only at the product, but the business as well. So there's a lot more that goes into the Magic Quadrant. But that sets the bar, or sets at least the baseline criteria. And if you look at it, you can kind of get a sense as to where we're at. We are not the strongest tool. If you look at the ranking of this, we're kind of in the middle lower half of the pack of overall for scores for Scrum team, and we're a little higher for single team Kanban. And if you go all the way to the bottom of this document, it shows you where does it go? I think it had it at the bottom. It shows you actually what numbers, how the numbers or how they weighted things across. So it's going to take a little bit of work to digest this, but now that Gabe's on board, I think it's time to take a look at this and see how it influences roadmap and planning and backlog.
Awesome, thank you. I will check that out. Thanks.
Yeah, happy to share and happy to do this. The other thing we can do, and Gabe does this. I do this typically with the product managers, but more people are welcome either to listen in or to connect or to pass questions. But we have the ability to go back to these analysts. In this case, this report's Tom Murphy or Mike West and Keith and Tom Murphy, the analysts who write this, we can go back to them with questions and do what are called inquiries. We can get 30-minute sessions with them where they basically will tell us what they're hearing from customers. They will tell us what they're seeing in the market. They will give us insight. So it's an opportunity for us to use them as a resource and have dialogue with them. And we can have as many of as we want as long as we can do meaningful dialogue. Typically, as a product marketing manager, I typically am involved in setting it up, but it's usually a partnership with product management. And usually it's product management that's asking lots of questions.
Can we go ahead and start the process of getting that set up? I mean, I would like that.
Got it. I'll open an issue with Joyce. Yeah.
Okay. I think whoever from the product side wants to join would be welcome, but I mean, it would be meaningful to me, especially as I'm trying to ramp up and think about, the future.
Yeah, and we do have to be cautious about having an army of people show up. So we have to be thoughtful about not overwhelming them, and having a single person or a couple people drive the conversation. But yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
I'll get with Joyce and get an issue open to do it with both Forrester and Gartner. Both of them cover us, and I have relationships with a handful of these guys and gals over the years. So yeah,
cool.
We'll do. To you, Gabe.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I just want to kind of highlight some evolving changes, just like at high-level product organization at GitLab, and then also specific to the plan team. So Scott Williamson, VP Product, is kind of mandated or recommended that we adopt a kind of a more validation prior to just jumping in and building features. And there's been a lot of back and forth between the product managers about, is it going to slow things down? Is it going to add too much weight to the process? And I happen to think that there's a happy middle ground where I think it will actually speed up process in the long run and kind of velocity. So I've just put a link into that, the handbook entry, to kind of, if anybody's interested in looking at the kind of high level changes, but specifically to plan, I've noticed, in terms of how we're planning things downstream, there's like a lot of work in progress at any given one time. We've kind of been consistently like not hitting everything that we want to hit in a given release, which I guess you could say is normal, but I kind of want to get to the point where we have a more continuous flow of value that we're able to ship and deliver, that still is aligned with like our milestone process and our release process. And so there's I just opened a merge request this morning for like adding a kind of a planned cross-functional team page just to talk about some of these planning things in the handbook. I would love people to kind of weigh in on that. But one of the big things that we want to work towards, and we definitely want to build into the product itself, is better reporting for teams. So like as a product manager right now, coming in and saying like, what can we fit in a given release? We don't have good quantitative data about what our velocity is from like a weight standpoint. I can see how many issues we complete on average each month, but it's not helpful for making commitments to the broad organization, to our customers, about what we can get done and what we can fit in and how to make trade-offs and how to discuss that as a team and what we need to break down into more like pieces. So part of working towards like a kind of more Kanban flow is trying to start to collect that data more intentionally over time, even if it's manually before it gets put into the product. So there's two kind of Kanban boards that kind of represent the new workflow that product is trying to adopt. I will post a link to the page once the merge request goes in, but if you want to go ahead and jump in and take a look and start the discussion on some of the things that like I'd like to start working towards, I would love to do that. And I don't want to have like all these huge changes. I more or less like want to do things in very small batches to see what works and what doesn't work, specific for our team. So that's just kind of a little of the stuff on the product side that I guess I've been thinking about and working on and talking to Sean and Don a little bit about this week.
Is there anything apart from reviewing that MR? Is there anything you need from us, like as engineers or as product designers or whatever, in the short term? Like, apart from like mention you on issues, like make sure you're in the loop on things. Is there anything else you want to get from us in the immediate future that would help a lot?
I think that's in the immediate future, probably. I think that's where, when we talk about getting ready for 12.3 and things that haven't been properly validated from like a problem or solution, if we haven't done enough customer reviews for like a given huge feature set. I would love to get UX involved just in kind of making sure we are doing those customer interviews and discovery calls before we go in and build something. And like that's where we kind of have to balance it out. We can't just put pause on everything to go back and redo everything if we haven't like hit it to a T. But this is more of like, as we move forward, we want to start thinking about big features. We want to do customer interviews prior to make sure that we understand the problem correctly, to make sure that we're validating the solution and doing some of those light prototypes, so that when we go to build something, we're building something that is actually needed and fits the job that we're building the feature for, and will be, you know, broadly accepted internally and externally. I think in the immediate, like if you are blocked on something, or if something is taking a long time to finish, or there's like kind of ambiguity, please include me in that, because I want to come and help solve the ambiguity and get things moving, so that we can ship stuff. So I'm still ramping up. I'm going to be working probably mostly on more of like the process will become, I guess, a more real thing probably with the 12.4 planning, since we only have a couple days until 12.3 is done. So I think that's it for now.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, sorry if you heard typing in the background, that was just me adding some comments to that MR already because I couldn't resist. But yeah, that's useful. Thank you. Also, I linked, just to verbalize it because it's in the doc, but people watching the recording won't necessarily see the doc at the same time. I also linked to the geo planning page. I don't think we necessarily want to do things exactly the same way that the geo group do them, but it's useful to see how they do things, because they're also trying to take a more Kanban-like approach. And if we can steal something from them, great. It's always easier than doing it yourself, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think next week I'll do a demo of everything once it gets kind of in place a little bit more. I'd like to get some of the documentation up and some of the like foundational pieces in place, and then we can walk through like a couple hypotheticals. But like I said, I don't want to like change everything in 1 week. It's just something we can slowly evolve to over the coming, you know, several weeks to months.
Yeah, sounds good. From my perspective as well, it's a really exciting time as well, because like I said, we've got, I think Eric mentioned that we have potentially another PM in the offer stage. Is that right, Eric? I don't know if you can say that on a call that's going to be public.
Yeah, we are. We're really close to having an offer sent out for another PM, which is good, and yeah, so that's super exciting. So the team is scaling. We've obviously got a new engineering manager starting. The team's going to be splitting and focusing on different things. Super exciting time. I think it's also a good time for us to make sure that we're really strong on a lot of this process stuff. One note, and Sean, I'm glad that you put the link to the geo planning stuff there, because Fabian and Rachel have been working pretty hard on that and aligning their boards to the new process that Gabe outlined. And so, if you don't mind, I just kind of want to share my screen to show you how they're thinking about stuff. And, you know, I would like for, I'd like for each of you to figure out what makes sense for this group, as I'll be taking a step back and not as in the weeds. But the new product process, remember, it goes from problem validation to solution validation, and then, you know, into a build track. And basically, the Geo team has set up these boards to align to that new process. So things that maybe need to go into problem validation or solution validation are just sitting and open. And then as we have these customer conversations and discovery calls, they would move from left to right on this board, and then ultimately into the scheduling column, where they would get, sorry, Zoom controls in my way, where they would get scheduled. And so they would move from kind of the planning board to the scheduling board, which looks like maybe this board's a work in progress, and then onto the build board, which I think is a little bit more applicable. So this is essentially all the things that have been validated, ready for development, and then things that are in dev and obviously onto closed. So you know, Gabe, Donald, Sean is, yep, go ahead, Valmir.
When it goes from the first Kanban board to the second one, it means that we have committed to start working on, or have committed to deliver that specific feature?
I think I would classify it as like, yes, we've committed to, or I don't know if committed is the right word, but I would say we've validated that there's a problem, and we've validated that a solution makes sense. Whether or not we've committed it to a specific customer or committed to build, I don't think actually is necessarily true, although it's probably a good idea at that point, because we've essentially found a product market fit, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, the way you can think about it is work moves from left to right. And so if everybody only is working on one thing, as soon as they finish maybe the issue they're working on that's in dev, they can just pull from like a backlog of stuff that is ready to go. And this also gives flexibility for the product manager and the rest of the team to continue to tweak some of the requirements or what's going to be built right up until the moment that it gets started. So it's almost like just an inventory, and then you can know when that gets low, and there's not that many issues like in the backlog to pull to start. It's a good signal to the product manager that they need to go back and work upstream to get more like stuff ready to go. So it's kind of just a workflow system that makes it really simple to kind of pull and move things on. And then the next layer is measurement on that, and you can kind of better measure throughput and like what the team can get done in a given period, so that way you can know what to commit to and how to communicate that to the broader or wider community, internal and external.
And from a development perspective, there's a couple of things that sort of jump out to me from the Geo boards. First of all, really heavy use of the workflow label. So I know in the backend team we're pretty inconsistent. Like sometimes we use those, sometimes we don't. Like, and that's not saying some people use them and some people don't. That's saying pretty much everybody uses them some of the time. So if it's the same on the front end team, like that's the thing is, we as engineering teams need to make sure we're more consistent about. But also Geo is pretty much 100% back end. I think, in fact, Kushal, who spends most of his time working on plan related stuff, is technically Geo's front end person as well. So we might need a couple more boards for the details there about like, does this need front end and back end? Does this need front end like we do right now? But we can work on that as we go. I think it's a really great place to start from.
Cool. That was all I had.
Yeah, clearly that my little speech there rendered everybody speechless. So yeah. But yeah, like I said before, I'm really excited that this has happened, that we're doing this now, and that we have another engineering manager joining next week, and another who will probably be on this call next week, and another PM joining hopefully soon, assuming everything goes well, because that's the perfect time to be already in the process of making these incremental changes, so we can still get feedback from them, but we also can give them a direction so that we're not just expecting them to come in and do this from scratch. Like Gabe's done a great job here, but we don't want every new PM to have to do what Gabe's done here. So yeah, thanks, Gabe, basically is what I'm saying there.
Oh, yeah, it's my pleasure. And that's where we're a team. So however we want to evolve the process, like it should continually evolve as we learn new things and we do retrospectives and figure out how to work together more effectively as a team. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. I think that's it, unless anybody has anything else. Great. Well, I'll see you all next week, if not before. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.